Hello, World History A students. This is your teacher, Mr. Goyette over at the Spectrum Center. Um, I was again looking at the discussion boards and noticing that some of you have started to contribute, and that's looking good. A few of you just have some notes down there. I did want to remind all of you that with your discussion boards, please be sure to add one full 5 to 7 sentence paragraph. And the instructions ask for 1 to 2 paragraphs. So if you're going for an A, you're going to need the 2 paragraphs there. One paragraph will not do it. The purpose, of course, is to really fully explore the topic. If you just add one sentence and one quote, you're just kind of scratching the surface. So in any high school course, we need to see that you're both analyzing and synthesizing the ideas, that is, putting them together and making sense of the time period and why it's important to not only the history of the time, but our history today, if you can. Our subject right now on this discussion board I wanted to touch on is Enlightenment, the Age of Reason. And some of you have gotten a start on this. I'm just going to go over some basics to give some students a few more ideas on what to write about. Obviously, Enlightenment was the application of natural laws, a reasoning that led to thinking in regard to human behavior. It changed the way people thought about the world overall because of the application of science. In Europe in the 17th and 18th centuries, thinkers began to reject traditional ideals and began to apply principles of reason and nature to government. So instead of the king's or the church's position being the only true position, people started to think maybe there are alternatives to the current systems we're living under. Philosophers such as John Locke, Baron de Montesquieu, and Voltaire were among the most influential Enlightenment thinkers. Their ideas caused people to question traditional forms of government, most notably absolutism. That is, the idea that the monarch or the king is absolutely the last word in government affairs and truth and logic. This period, of course, the Enlightenment's other name is called the Age of Reason. The Enlightenment ideals were unpopular with many governments and with the church, both of whom sought to censor new ideas about reason and nature. So earlier on we discussed Martin Luther's push against the church to create more freedoms for those people seeking to read scripture on their own, to create freedoms for parishioners and worshipers to access the Bible without the church or the government telling them what they can and cannot read. However, whether the church was Lutheran, Protestant, or Catholic, they often tended to restrict what their parishioners could read because they wanted to control some of the ideas that they were thinking. There was limited acceptance of Enlightenment ideals among monarchs. Some of these monarchs were known as enlightened despots. Rulers such as Maria Theresa of Austria and Catherine the Great of Russia, which you reviewed and read about them in chapter 22, used their positions of authority to make some changes, not political exactly, but in society. For example, they supported the building of schools and the building of hospitals as part of the governmental structure. Formerly, the government, if you got sick, the government would say, oh, too bad, God decided you were supposed to be sick. In the late 18th and early 19th centuries, Enlightenment ideas played a key role in the American and French revolutions, as well as the Latin American wars for independence. A name you might want to look up, one of my favorite names in Latin American democratic revolutionary revolts, is a guy by the name of Bernardo O'Higgins. So look that up sometime. All right, moving on to more the center of your question for this topic. Who were the most influential Enlightenment philosophers? Let's look. I've already posted some ideas. Let's look at 4 of them that you could use in your answer. Let's start with John Locke. John Locke was an Englishman who believed in natural rights. Excuse me, I just kicked the desk. Believed in natural rights, rights of all human beings possessed, including the right to life, liberty, and property. We'll note that in the Declaration of Independence, Jefferson changes property to pursuit of happiness. Locke argued that governments had the responsibility to protect these rights, and that if they failed to do so, people had the right to revolt. This is the idea of the consent of the governed, and this is important because Jefferson is going to embrace this and make this the entire basis of the Declaration of Independence. That if an institution is not providing, in this case the British government, is not providing any sort of benefits to a people and hindering their freedoms, then you have every right to revolt or turn against that governmental or institutional system. So again, that's called the consent of the governed. Let's go on to Montesquieu now. Baron de Montesquieu believed in the separation of powers and argued that there should be 3 branches: the legislative, executive, and judicial, so that no one person or group would have too much power. This is called the concept of checks and balances. So what do we have? Consent of the governed under Locke, and Montesquieu, the idea of checks and balances. From him, we get the legislative, executive, and judicial branches. Again, Montesquieu, legislative, executive, judicial, checks and balances. Let's go to Voltaire really fast. Voltaire believed in the concept of free speech and religious toleration. He's going to really emphasize these two, and that's really all you need to know about him if you want to write about him in this instance. Voltaire believed in the concept of free speech and religious toleration. Let's go to Rousseau for a moment. Another Enlightenment philosopher you can cite in your paper or in your response. Jean-Jacques Rousseau, a French philosopher, argued in The Social Contract, the long treatise or essay that he wrote on freedom, that in forming governments, people must give up their own interests for all, or for the common good. This does not mean he's saying that we have to give up our desires, our wants, our dreams. Rather, what he's saying in that in a social contract, if the society is to be a successful one, that the people must find a way to curtail or to minimize activities that would harm the whole group. So while you might have dreams, if your dreams are going to lead to the death, destruction of your society, then you probably want to abandon those. This whole idea again is called people must give up their own interests for the common good, and this is known as the social contract. So those are 4 philosophers: John Locke, Montesquieu, Voltaire, and Rousseau. Hope that gave you some ideas. Again, I look forward to seeing 1 full or 2 full paragraphs in reflection of these philosophers and the idea of the Enlightenment in general, also known as the Age of Reason. Thank you for watching this webcast, and give me a call or email me. Great talking with you.